All right, so let us continue our journey in answering PMP questions. Remember, standardized exam, the best way to pass a standardized exam is to answer as many questions as possible. Okay, very, very important, integral, right? And we are going to use our PMP Accelerator course. If you're interested in the course and you're interested in the most streamlined way to get certified, only focusing on what you need from concise theory to common exam scenarios with clear, concise explanations from our entire mindset principles section, not just the principles, but actual mindset training, to foundational questions that cover every single topic you can expect on the exam, to the most common drag and drop questions, cheat sheet terms so you know exactly which terms to know for the exam in a very concise way, right? PMBOK, they take a page or a whole paragraph to explain something. We don't want that. And then you have your non-timed exam simulator, so you get used to the exam without the pressure of the clock, and then you end off with the timed exam simulator. All right, so if you're interested in that, link is going to be included. You can book an appointment to see if it's for you. We'll go through the entire program with you. And the link also includes a small training to give you an understanding of how you should approach the exam. All right, book that call. Let us begin right now with our questions. And we will start. Okay, so 46. So this is the rules. These are the rules. I'm going to read some of the answers first, and after reading the answer, I will use something known as a PMP mindset training, which we will eliminate answers even before reading the question itself. This will train your mind to identify patterns and identify which answers conform to our PMP principles. So A, number 46. Keep project artifacts up to date and accessible to all stakeholders. Nothing wrong with that. That's what you're supposed to do. B, share project documentation in a repository with exclusive access. Okay, so sharing everything in the repository is fine, but why exclusive access? Why are we limiting the access to certain groups of people? We want everyone to benefit from the repository. That's how they're going to learn. C, schedule weekly knowledge sharing sessions with key stakeholders. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Send periodic emails to senior management with the latest project updates. Okay, nothing wrong with that too, right? You're updating them to know what's going on. So we're left with A, C, and D. We got to read the question now. So a PM wants to make sure that similar projects in the future use the project's performance data as reference. However, the project man is not sure how to accomplish this. What should the PM do? Okay. So if you look at A, we talk about project artifacts. And what are project artifacts? This is a good time to use our course over here. Okay. So what are project artifacts? If we go on the cheat sheet terms and we go on artifacts, and you're going to see this term a lot in your exam, project documents. Okay. So documentation. All the documentations. And the documentation for a project will tell you about the project. Okay, we'll tell you about its data, information, whatever it may be. So this is good. As we are working throughout this project, we can develop keep the project artifacts up to date and make it accessible to all stakeholders. Okay. Weekly knowledge sharing sessions with key stakeholders. That's great. But again, we want to make it open to all stakeholders. Okay. Why? Because we're using this for similar projects in the future. So we don't know who's going to be in charge of the project in the future. We want to just leave it open for everyone. Okay. So the best answer here is going to be A. We are left with one more, which is periodic emails, but that's not going to solve the core problem. And we want to solve the core problem. We want to find a way to make this available to people in the future. Okay. So hopefully that's clear. You'll see a lot of the times, guys, when it comes to these questions in the PMP, as long as you understand the problem statement, you can make out a lot of the answer from just common sense. Okay. Now, I know it's a little bit difficult because you do have the pressure of the clock, and a lot of these days, common sense is not that common as well. So you have to practice and you'll get used to it. Okay, awesome. So let's move on to 47. Ensure that the project sponsor understood the scope of the project to avoid any future complaints. Okay. All right. So I'm scanning through the problem. I don't see sponsor anywhere. So this is, in a way, involves someone that doesn't need to be involved. So I'm not going to choose this for now. We have to read the question to understand. Ensure the stakeholder concerns were properly addressed in the iteration to avoid future setbacks. Okay, that could work. Reviewed with the product owner that all acceptance criteria were met for the stories worked on in the iteration. Okay, so we're involving the PO. The PO is responsible for this entire product backlog, and our acceptance criteria is related to our product backlog because our backlog has our features that we're going to complete in the respective sprint. So that could work. Review with the product owner that all stories worked on in the iteration were in the project backlog. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a quick MCQ trick, and this is a general MCQ trick. So over here, this whole question involves different people, the project sponsor, the stakeholder, then you have the product owner twice. If they are going out their way to mention the product owner twice, that means the answer should involve the product owner, right? The answer should involve the product owner. So just by looking at the answers, I already could eliminate A and B because I know that the question is steering me to the answer that involves the product owner. So let's read this question now. During a system demo, a stakeholder rejects the features completed from the most recent user stories. According to stakeholder, product does not meet the quality standards required by regulations. What should the project manager have done to avoid this? Okay, so we're going back in the past. Have done, easiest types of questions. We're going back in the past. We are simply going to choose the answer that's going to solve the core problem, which is to eliminate the situation from even happening. So the stakeholder says the product does not meet the quality standards required by regulations. What should the project manager have done? Review with the product owner all the acceptance criteria were met for the stories worked on in the iteration. Review the product owner that all the stories worked on in the iteration were in the product backlog. Okay, so they were in the product backlog. They were in the product backlog. If they were not in the product backlog, this feature that's being complained about, or this product that's being complained about, would not have even been created in the first place. We did not validate things in the acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria will tell us that, hey, listen, the product that you're making, this is going to be accepted if it follows these, if it checks off these 3 things or 10 things, whatever it may be, right? And one of these things would definitely be the regulations. Okay, so the answer is going to be C here. And I'll give you guys another trick, and I mentioned this in the last video. When there is let's say a problem with the product, someone says this is not what we've agreed on, you want to go back to the acceptance criteria or even the definition of done. All right. So if you go back to our course, if you're not sure what acceptance criteria is, the objectives that must be complete for the project to be formally accepted. Right. You can think of it that way. In acceptance criteria for product, same thing, but instead of project, you could mention product. Awesome. All right. Let's read this question. It's pretty small. A project is 70% complete when the project sponsor requests an additional deliverable. What should the project manager do first? Negotiate the sponsor on the possible alternatives. Determine the possible impact of this change on all aspects of the project. Reject the request as being too late and leading to a major scope creep. Submit the request to the change control board for a decision. Okay, so we have this over here, reject, and we never reject an opportunity or request. Okay, that's one of our principles. Here, let me just write reject, and we will find it. Okay, so 18. So we can eliminate that right off the bat. Negotiate with a sponsor on possible alternatives. There's no need to negotiate. This doesn't solve anything. It doesn't address the core problem. We're not saying the project is complete and then the sponsor requests something, right? The project is 70% complete, meaning it's not complete yet. So A is not going to help us. Determine the possible impact of this change on all aspects of the project. Submit the request to change the control board for a decision. Okay. Now, this is really interesting because B is a part of D, but D is the entire process. Okay, so The first thing you would want to do is you would technically want to determine the possible impact of this change. With that information, then submit a change request. Okay, so we're going to go back to our course over here and let's see if we have it. I think I have the process. Change control process, right? So project manager analyzes a change. That's the first thing you want to do when it comes to a change request. So technically speaking, that is B. And then you submit the change request. I could see why D could be the answer too, but we don't want to complicate things. They say, what should the project manager do first? I would say B is the right answer. And that's what the majority of people chose. Okay? But remember that D is the next step that follows. Just know these steps over here. Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit of a snippet of our course. Again, we break it down very easily. So just know these steps over here and you should be fine. Awesome. Okay, so we're doing good. A, ask the sponsor to identify all required skills during the planning of the project. Okay, so it's not the sponsor's responsibility. And I'm just scanning through the problem. I don't see any mention of sponsor. Sponsor's not involved. Identified all required skills after the kickoff of the project. I would prefer before, just in case, so we know exactly what we're getting into. Planned all required training for the team during the onboarding process. Identified all required skills during the planning of the project. Ooh, okay, that's even better. Anyways, let's just read this to understand what's going on. A company initiated a departmental transformation project improving the processes for the organization using a predictive approach. This is a critical project for the organization, and in the middle of it, the PM noticed that one of the deliverables cannot be produced due to a missing technical skill. Okay, so what should the project manager have done to avoid this situation? A is gone. We shouldn't ask the sponsor. And I think one of the other things, C is also gone. I wouldn't choose C. Why during the onboarding process? Why during the onboarding? I'm not even sure what they mean by onboarding process, to be honest. Do they mean onboarding the employees, the team members? Planned all required training. Okay. Thing is, we're not planning all required training. Rather, we should identify first what we need, and then we could plan things out. So B and D are good answers. So let's check this out. Like we mentioned before, look at what they're repeating. In the previous two questions, they were repeating the product owner. Over here, they're repeating what? Identified all required skills. Identified all required skills. They're steering you in that direction where the answer is one of these two. You just have to figure out when. After the kickoff of the project or during the planning of the project. Okay? I would say during the planning of the project. I'm a little bit confused here, but I would say during the planning. Yeah, exactly. Okay? Kickoff, you wouldn't do these things in the kickoff. You would figure it out afterwards. You would see if you need to hire some other people and whatnot. It's just knowing when things are done. Okay? But I want you to understand that. And I want you to understand these patterns that the PMP employs from time to time. If they're repeating two answers and there's a small difference, they're steering you in that direction. They want you to pick one of these two. Okay? All right, awesome. Okay, so a project manager is beginning a new project with very diverse team members. The PM chose to use consensus building so the team can agree on and be engaged in how the project will be executed. Okay. How should the project manager proceed? Okay, so this is not a good example of a PMP question. Rather, you'll have this whole process or this whole situation in a problem, in a occurrence, in a situation, and then what should the project manager do? But let's just solve it for the sake of it. Okay, so create an environment where the agreement is reached by a majority vote. Okay, that's consensus building. Create an environment where the agreement is reached through discussion. Okay, I see what they're doing. Establish recurring brainstorming sessions to discuss project issues. Allow team members to contribute ideas in a stream of consciousness mode. No idea what that is. I've never come across that term. Can it be a PMP term? I don't know. Maybe. That's one thing too. When you see questions and answers that just throw terms at you that you've never seen before, and that's why we made this entire section, this entire cheat sheet term section, because those are the terms. These are terms that you just have to know. But if you see terms that you don't recognize at all, don't select those. Okay, even if it sounds okay, even if it sounds good. So I'm gonna say, see again. Look, this is, guys. This is insane. Create an environment. Create an environment. Repeat it twice. And that's what you want to do as a project manager. Typically, you want to create a good atmosphere and environment, but create an environment where the agreement is reached by a majority vote, or create an environment where the agreement is reached through discussion. I would say through discussion, right? Imagine we're voting and no one's paying attention, and then for some reason people are voting, or they're choosing the easiest thing to do because people don't want to work, right? I'll say discussion. Yeah, exactly. All right, perfect. So that's number 50. Okay, let's move on to the next question. 51. Awesome. Okay, so let's start with the answers just to get our mindset training. Request a teleconference meeting with the sponsor to submit a change request to allow the development team to conduct testing. Okay, I don't know why the sponsor needs to be involved in this, but let's give it a soft elimination for now. I don't see sponsor in the question. I'm looking at it very quickly. Engage with the functional manager, discuss details to obtain the required support. Okay, that could work. If the question mentions functional manager, then we can definitely make that work. Discuss testing requirements at the weekly project meeting to negotiate the best approach to test software. All right. Okay. Send an email to the procurement specialist to negotiate with the company that specializes in software training. All right. So in this question, we have a combination of principle number 1 over here, which is our most important principle, and other answers that follow principle number 1. So the answers that follow principle number 1 are B and C. So I'm not going to choose A and D for now. Okay. Now I'm going to go with B if the question mentions functional manager, because the situation mentions functional manager. So let's read it. A PM for a software technology project works in a matrix organization with virtual teams. Unfortunately, the functional manager informs the project manager that there may not be any resource available to test the software. What should the PM do next? All right. Matrix. So FM is important because the FM is typically the person that can provide us with some human resources. So if we look at B, engage the function manager to discuss details to obtain the required support, we can do that, right? And if we do C, discuss the testing requirements at the weekly project to negotiate the best approach to test software. I would say B. I would say let's start with the functional manager first, because we are dealing with a matrix organization. He or she is telling us that there may not be any resource available to test. So we're going to engage or discuss with the FM to discuss the details so that we can perhaps obtain further support. Okay? Exactly. We got it. Guys, I'm doing these questions without looking at the answers, by the way. I'm doing them so that I can understand potentially what all of you are going through. Even though I did the exam and we've trained so many people to take the exam, I still want to understand what is going on. Okay, so if you disagree with me on something, let me know. At the end of the day, there's no problem. We're all learning. Okay. Discuss the lack of dedication with the team member and their functional manager. Ooh, with the team member is fine. Okay. With the functional manager as well, that's not good. Why? Because we have a principle over here. Never expose your team members' faults to others. Right? Imagine you're not motivated, or you have performance issues and your boss is there. I mean, your boss is going to be there discussing with you, but imagine like that boss brings someone else that didn't have to be there and is there. Allow the most senior team members to decide the time that works for the team. So this is never going to be the answer, right? This is never going to be the answer. Why allow the senior team member to do it? Everyone has a different schedule. Remove the team member from the project team to be fair to the other team members. We never want to do this. It's going to create friction in the team. We never want to fire or get rid of someone. Never create friction in the team. All right. Reassess the team's hours collaboratively so that team is not impeded by an issue. I like this one. I'm not going to read the question. It's D. Okay. Beautiful answer. All right. A, perform analysis to assess the impact on the project. I bet that's the answer. Proceed with the existing company governance policy. Escalate the issue to the upper management. We never escalate. Directly comply with the financial regulations. Okay. And again, when you have principle number one, take a step back, perform an analysis. That's principle number one. Every other answer follows principle number one, like B, C, and D. Then you choose principle number one. Okay. You choose principle number one. That's how you go about answering questions. Postpone. We never want to postpone. All right, that's eliminated. Why? Because never settle for delays or extra costs. If the question mentions postpone, eliminate that option. Done. Continue to work as planned and inform the school when the project team arrives on site. Okay. Advise the school to close for the duration of the project work. That's probably not going to be feasible. That's probably why there's a situation. Liaise with the school to include non-working project hours during the school start and finish times. All right, this is a little bit. Okay, let's read this question. A PM has been assigned to an emergency project that must be completed within the next few weeks. The project manager realizes that this will have impact on the local community as the work is near school. The project manager has engaged with the team to understand their needs. How should the project manager ensure the work continues smoothly? So we don't want to postpone because this is a emergency project. If we continue to work as planned and inform the school when the project team arrives on site, how's that going to solve problems? How's that going to solve anything? They're still going to make a lot of noise and whatnot. Advise the school to close for the duration of the project. We can't do that. It's a school. And I think the answer is going to be D, guys. I think the answer is going to be D. It's a good solution. It solves a core problem. Everyone's happy. That's going to be it. Okay. Awesome. So we're doing good. We're just reading the answers and we're getting to the solution. Review the organization's human resources policy. Okay. Review. I like that. Principle number one. Empathize with the team member and discuss next steps. Ooh, even better. Ask the team member to send their concerns in writing. Schedule a meeting with the team member for the next workday. All right. So I like B because it has a servant leader trait, which is empathize, and you're discussing principle number one. I'm gonna choose B without reading the question, but I'm curious to know what the question is. So let's just see. There we go. So in a late night on a weekend, when a team member calls a project manager on the telephone, the team member is crying about the pressure of an upcoming deadline. Oh, okay, yeah. You should empathize, and you should understand what their perspective they're coming from, and discuss next steps. Yeah, that's a good solution. Question number 56. A team is having a hard time completing work due to unclear requirements. They have not been able to complete an iteration successfully in several months. What should the project manager do? All right. Problem statement pretty simple. Unclear requirements, and they haven't been able to complete an iteration successfully. Because of that, what should we do? Recommend a team reviews the length of the iteration with stakeholders. Okay, so it's not really a length of iteration problem. Okay, actually, you know what? It could be. Because if the length of the iteration is too short and they have just too many requirements, then yeah, I could understand. But I don't like how they mention with stakeholders. Too general. Anyways, product owner should be involved in this process because we're talking about requirements. Recommend that the product owner, there we go, reviews the product backlog refinement process. Okay, very good. I'll leave it to you guys in the comments. What is a backlog refinement process? Tell me what that means in the comment section. I'm going to go with B. That's the answer. But recommend limiting the work in progress to improve the team's focus. Recommend a review of the team members' individual performance. That's not going to work. Okay, best answer B. But you guys let me know in the comments. And we'll end off with this. What does backlog refinement process mean? Let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to still continue. We're going to solve as many problems as we possibly can to help you. So stay tuned every day or every other day. And check out our course. It's going to be linked. I know we can get you certified. I know it can. If you're someone busy, working 9 to 5, you have a family, you have a lot of things on your plate, and you want to get certified before the exam changes, book that appointment. Let us show you what the course is about, and you can decide if it's for you or if it's not. Take care for now. I'll see you guys in the next video.